Welcome to the Tuesday Review. I'm Nathan, as always, joined by Callum and James in the studio. How you going, guys?
Good. It's good to be back.
Yes, off sick last week,
Another
as
hiatus.
is not uncommon these days.
Yeah.
Also joined by
Especially-
Rafal in the studio. How you going, Rafal? He
Live
nods in
audience.
affirmation that he is indeed here.
Live studio
That's
audience.
it, our live studio audience.
We have to turn the applause sign
Yeah,
on.
that's it. Yeah, we have a little sign so he knows when to laugh at our jokes.
Yeah. please clap. Who was
Please-
that guy?
Jeb Bush. Jeb Bush, please.
Oh, let's not talk about American politics. Goddamn.
We're just kicking back this week, a bit chill, a bit relaxed.
Yeah.
Good old-fashioned round table.
Good old fashioned, yeah, just vibing. Look, Callum's got a lot to say. James has got a lot to say, I'm assuming.
I just have
As
one thing
usual.
I want to talk about.
What do you want to talk about?
Well, so I just been because I went hard on the horror movies during
Mm.
Spooktober, and then I was just like, I'm just going to take it easy. I'm going to catch up on some TV shows, and I'll watch some movies. But the one thing I wanted to talk about was I finally finished listening to all the Witcher books.
Ah.
So, listeners might remember when I saw when the first season of the Netflix Witcher series came out, I watched it and thought it was okay. I had played a little bit of the Witcher 3 video game. I had never read the books. But I was like, yeah, this is a good show. Like, I think they could do this instead of that. I think they should do this. But it was all right. Then the second season came out and the writing was awful. Like, as someone who had no
I mean, are we
experience with the...
Yeah, so I watched season 2 without any knowledge of the Witcher universe outside of my limited video game playing. And I have to say, the second season was very weak. The best parts of The Witcher are when the primary characters are together.
Yeah.
And it's the Stranger Things issue. Sometimes we just didn't get it, and it was weaker. And also, you can tell they changed things from the source material because it just didn't. There wasn't a coherency.
Yeah, exactly.
That there would be otherwise.
Right. It's like I'd never read the books, hadn't played the games. It's like just watching it, like you're just
You can tell.
You can tell they're not following the books, and then you go online and people are like, they changed this,
And you're like, yeah.
and you're like, oh, I get that. And then people are saying they're not only deliberately changing things, they're like doing things that are opposite from the books.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, so this is like a malicious.
It's the Wheel of Time issue where
Exactly.
like I always said, it's Rafe Judkins' Wheel of Time, not
Yeah.
Robert Jordan's.
It's not
It's
necessarily
like the Netflix Witcher, not
Yeah.
like the gentleman's name I can't pronounce, Witcher.
It's not necessarily malicious, but it's just
No.
like they clearly don't care about the source material.
It's decisive though.
Yeah. And Henry Cavill, who played the main character Geralt, was like a big fan of the books, a big fan of the games, and so he was kind of championing the role. And even in interviews, he was like, I want to stay true to the books, and that clearly wasn't happening. So after the second season of the show, I started listening to the original source novels by Andrzej Sapkowski.
in the Polish?
Yeah, in Polish with audio subtitle. So it's like says Polish and then it was in English.
I'm being a smart ass.
I like the guy who read it. He's a guy named Peter Kenny who read all the books. He did a good job with all the voices and the different accents. I don't know if I haven't listened to a lot of audiobooks, but I've never listened to an audiobook where I'm like, oh, this is the definitive version of these characters for me now.
Yeah, it's funny.
Like when I hear in my head Geralt, it's this guy's version.
I was hanging out with Alan 4 or 5 days ago maybe.
Yeah.
And he's been listening to Hyperion on audiobook.
Yeah, that's
And
the next one I have to listen to.
I was listening to that, and honestly, it was way cooler than reading the book. Because the way they read it, it's like an art form.
Yeah.
And I can't describe, like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm assuming it's the same with you, where
yeah.
the way they read it, there's a melody to it that it doesn't do, like, the words on the page is the words on the page.
Yeah.
When some guy's reading it, they can breathe such life into them.
Especially if you got a good narrator or reader or whatever
Yeah.
they're called. Like, yeah. Like, because I think I've talked about on the show before, I find it so hard to find time to read. And even if I do have time to read, I just get too distracted. There's just always too much stuff and noise around. And so I've really been enjoying like I subscribe to Audible, and I'm just like, now I can listen in the car or listen
Yeah.
while I'm washing the dishes or whatever. So that's been really good, and it allowed me to, because there's how many books is there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's 8 books in the main story, and then there's a 9th book which is a prequel. So it
So you
allowed
had
me.
your work cut out for you.
Yeah, but it allowed me to listen to 9 books
At your own pace.
in probably less than a year. Whereas if I actually read them,
It would take much longer.
it would take probably years, honestly. So that was good, and yeah, I enjoyed them. I think like reading them, listening to them, I can definitely see parts of it would be hard to adapt, because there are things you can read where, books are very different than movies. Books can kind of go in like long, rambling, weird directions and not really even have a resolution or a conventional resolution that for a show or movie would be very unsatisfying and kind of weird. So in that regard, yeah, I understand you can't be a one-to-one adaptation, but the way the books are, it's a lot of dialogue, a lot of characters talking to each other. I feel like if you just hit the main plot points, then in between you can kind of do a Peter Jackson Lord of the Rings thing and just streamline it, make it a bit more action adventure, and you're still getting to the same places that the books are getting to.
Yeah.
You're still being we talked about it like the spirit, keeping the spirit of the source material.
Yeah.
So I think they could have adapted it pretty well, but clearly they don't have the time or the money or the inclination to
I
do
mean,
that.
Netflix right now,
And
bit of a death spiral.
yeah, and then there's the added thing of it's come out in the news. Henry Cavill obviously is no longer in the show after the next season, and he's being replaced by Liam Hemsworth. And it's just like, well, I wasn't really interested in continuing the show that much anyway.
Yeah.
And now he's not. So it's like, well,
I think
I don't even want to watch it anymore.
I think it boils down to like showrunner ego.
Yeah.
When they're like, they're adapting something, but they're like, I'm gonna make it mine.
But
I want to
allegedly,
leave.
according to news reports as well, allegedly they actively dislike the book.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like
Which-
they want to leave their stamp on it, you know.
Which I know.
Also, don't adapt it if you hate the source material. It's not hard.
Yeah, exactly. But if you're a like kind of up and coming writer or whatever, and you're given this huge show, you're gonna do it whether you hate the material
I mean,
or
that's
not, or
it.
whether
It's
you
like
know
whether
it or
you
not.
like
But-
it or not, you should be doing. You're adapting something,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You should do it authentically or don't
Yeah.
do it at all.
But they think they're smart. We talked about this with
Yeah.
other movies and shows. I think Wheel of Time. It's like they think they're smarter than
They might be. Yeah.
they are, and they think they're smarter than the beloved author who wrote this beloved series. You know.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then like whether Henry Cavill is playing Superman again or not, I think his decision to leave was coloured a lot by
yeah.
the fact that the writers and the producers of the Witcher show don't really care as much as
I
he
think.
does.
Well,
I imagine how he feels when he's on set and he knows the writers. I don't know if they've written in advance or they're tweaking as they go, sort of situation.
Yeah.
But imagine his frustration being like when you're working with a team who actively is
Yeah.
going
Well,
against
he talks
everything
about
you
it.
enjoy.
He talked about it, saying that the Geralt that he loved has a philosophical side, and he's not that brash.
Yeah.
He's not aggressive in nature in the show, but he's cold and he's kind of
Yeah.
isolated. Whereas in the source material, he's got a philosophical side, a warmer side.
People have described him as a conversationalist in the books, and I
Yeah.
can definitely see that considering how dialogue heavy the books
Yeah.
are.
So it's like Henry Cavill said that he would try to implement that into his character,
Yeah.
even though he couldn't do it through the script.
Yeah.
And so I imagine it's a very frustrating position to be. We're all trying to be the character from the books, but the script's like, no, you're not. You're grunting now.
Yeah.
You're not saying this. You're going.
And like I liked when he was just grunting. I was kind of like, oh, I like this character. He's like
but
he's
he's not-
a man of few words.
He's not the Batman.
Yeah, no, but I kind of like that. And then in the second season, he starts saying more dialogue, and
Yeah.
I'm like, this wouldn't be so bad if the dialogue wasn't so awful.
Yeah.
And then you read the books, and it's just like, oh, he's much more, talkative in the books. He's much more, like philosophical and stuff in the books. It's like they clearly don't You
Yeah.
know, if you were gonna stick with the gruff, stoic, just grunting guy, I would have been fine with that, even though.
Yeah.
But then,
You have to. Everything else has to match with it.
and it also has to be implemented well, especially if he's your main character. But yeah, like I think the fact that he was such a big fan of the novels and the games, I feel like playing Geralt was probably like a dream role for him, and whether Superman was a stronger draw for him, like whether that or not, the fact that he's like, okay, I'm out, I think has a lot to do with the fact that he's like, they're not taking this seriously.
I think Superman was like, he's like, oh well, I'm going to advance my career in this direction now. He doesn't get what he wants with Witcher. So.
If the showrunners were doing a really great job of bringing that character to life and adapting the Witcher books, I'm sure
he might have stuck around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know, but it feels this way.
Yeah.
I have a feeling we're gonna have a similar situation in a couple of years with the Gears of War show.
Yeah, as soon as they said we're making a Gears of War show for Netflix, I'm like, it's going to be garbage. And then Nathan
apparently he has. I thought Batista had actually got the role.
Oh,
but he's auditioning hard. He's like,
he's been doing that for years.
He bought his own Gears of War costume, like, and then he put it on a video, and he's like, I'm going to make this as easy as possible for you.
But whether he plays that role or not, it's going to suck.
Yeah.
Like, they can't adapt that without. You know, it's just going to be CGI garbage. But yeah, The Witcher, like, I enjoyed the books. There is a lot of, like, not a lot happened. Like, some books, like, a few books go by and not a lot has happened.
Yeah.
It's more about the dialogue, the characters.
That's okay.
Yeah, and that's fine, especially for a book. Like, that's kind of what you want. The plot isn't as important. And I think for a TV show, you kind of want to move things along. But as I said, if they just stuck with the main plot points, they could have got there in slightly different ways, but it would have been fine. The fact that they're just doing their random whatever they want and doing it terribly, that's a real problem. And I think also there's stuff in the books that I don't want to call it edgelord stuff, but it gets, especially with young Ciri, who in the books is even younger than she is in the
Is that translation
show.
Issues? Or is it like that?
I'm sure it's both. But I think it's just the way he wrote the story.
It's hard to be perfect.
I think like adapting it, obviously that's going to be hard. But again, like you keep the spirit. You don't have to...
The edgelordy stuff, though, I'm like, that's kind of... I wouldn't call The Witcher sword and sorcery necessarily, but it certainly is a part of that ancestry. If you want, it borrows from sword and sorcery a little.
It's also it's the Game of Thrones thing where it's like this is dark, quote unquote, realistic fantasy where people.
But people probably feel the need to be a bit...
The good guys don't always win. And bad things happen to good people.
Edgelord stuff is hand in hand with that type of fantasy.
And I understand like them not wanting to adapt parts of that, especially in the later books, which eventually I'm sure they'll completely ignore. But I'm like, there's still a way...
Like the rest of the books.
Yeah. There's still a ways to adapt that without like losing...
Showrunner goes, there's novels? That's interesting.
Yeah, huh? I'm sure that's how
I'm basing this on a book.
Hey, remember when the show started and the author, Andrei Sapkowski, who was angry at the video games because he didn't get paid enough, and he's like, these video games suck. And then the show comes out and he's like, this show is great, and Henry Cavill is the definitive Geralt.
I'm like,
and it's just like, well, it's just because he's getting paid, and now look
like
what's
objectively,
happened.
The games are a much better representation of the books.
Well, the games are different as well because they're kind of like sequels to the books, and they also take characters in different directions.
Yeah, but at least it feels like it's done from a place of love.
They're not insulting. Yeah, they're not like deliberately like a middle finger to the source material. But yeah, I enjoyed the novels. It's one of those things where it's not a long-running fantasy series that goes forever, but it's not just like one or two or three books. It's like 8 books.
So it's a world.
Yeah, and then the ninth prequel. I do think like I said, books are very different than movies and shows and games. Like there are parts of the book where it's like, oh, that's a bit anticlimactic. And so at the end of the whole saga, it's not like this epic Lord of the Rings. It's like, oh, the good guys win. Yeah, it ends like, I won't say how it ends, but it ends like a book ends.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like some books end
yeah. You know,
in ways that a movie would never would.
Yeah, but also like, especially for novels, endings can be really hard. You
Well,
know,
endings
like,
are always hard.
ask
Doesn't matter
Stephen
what
King
medium.
That's what I was
Yeah,
gonna
right.
say. That's what I was saying. Like even the best of authors who have
Yeah.
ever lived, not all. can't all
Stephen
stick
King's
the
the
ending.
end. He's the king of shitting an ending.
Although the
Yeah.
the Dark Tower ending though, greatest ending I've ever
I
seen
know.
in my
But
whole
what's
life.
his hit rate on endings?
Yeah.
Not very good.
But he also has a high turnout. Like he has,
He has a
Yeah.
high turnout, and most of his books, the beginning and the middle, are just sublime. And then it's like
Yeah,
the
and then-
endings.
And then the end kind of
but
fizzles.
yeah, ends is always the hardest part. But I think it's not necessarily that the ending was bad. It's just it's a good ending for a novel series, not a
Yeah.
good ending for a movie or a
Yeah.
TV series.
Well, yeah, exactly.
So like, again, I'm not going to keep watching the show, and I don't really care what happens. But I don't think they would, and they're not going in the same direction anyway. So
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to do it. And again, we've talked about this before. They don't have the time and the budget to do the things in the book. There are
Yeah.
like things in fantasy and sci-fi books where it's just like, oh, this has to be a really big production, great special effects, great production design, and they just don't have the time or money for that.
Yeah.
Even with these shows that cost more than have ever costed before.
it's crazy.
So
I don't understand where all the money goes. I mean, the green screen, obviously, but like
yeah, I don't know. I
I-
mean, I know it costs a lot just to do every other little thing that you have to do, but I think they got to put the money into the
Mm. Yeah.
spectacle of it. But even when you do, as we discussed with Rings of Power, it's like doesn't really matter if the story and characters aren't engaging. But yeah, that's all I wanted to talk about because yeah, I've been reading those or listening to those, and
you've been listening to In Plain Sight.
yes, and now I moved on to
And how you find it? First impressions.
it's good.
Yeah.
I mean,
Are
it's
you-
our
are you
favorite
still in
topic. It's our favorite topic.
I
Yeah,
know.
UFOs. I
Are
mean,
you in the history? Are you
when-
still in the history section?
You're
of
gonna
the book?
laugh
I'm
at a
up to-
hobby,
yeah.
Rafael. I'll ask you to leave.
I'm up to I'm up to Skinwalker Ranch. So it's like chapter 11.
Oh, nice. So you're in the
So-
modern day period now, or are you still?
I
in
mean,
the-
it's coming up to the 21st century.
I'm
kind of
trying
into
to.
the
I'm trying to
21st
read in plain sight, and I'm struggling. Probably
Listen
it's not
to
an
the
audio
audio.
book. I might
Yeah.
have to get the audio book because I'm finding it's
Although-
all. I'm all stuck in the 40s at the moment.
Yeah,
I'm like, I
get-
don't
no.
care.
Some of the most
Like,
interesting
I do
stuff-
care
That's
about
just-
Roswell
The
specifically.
thing with
Some of
now-
the most interesting stuff's in the 40s. You just got to find it. It's like picking golden nuggets out.
the thing with In Plain Sight is, should we explain what it is first?
Yeah.
So, it's written by an Australian author, Australian journalist,
investigative journalist.
Ross Coulthard, who over his career, the last 30 plus years, has kind of interviewed just. He wasn't like a big UFO guy, but
No, he didn't believe
just,
in it.
Yeah, just because like he worked for like the ABC and other other platforms, and he's just like he interviewed people, and they're like, they started talking about UFOs, and he's like, so he started looking into it.
Boy, did he fall down a rabbit
Yeah,
hole.
and so he's written this book In Plain Sight, which the first half charts like all the major UFO.
Yeah.
sightings.
I'm
and-
at a point in the book where it's just like, and this farmer says he saw this in 1946,
the first
and
half-
there was a witness, and he swears it happened, and I'm just like,
I'm not-
Callum
I'm not-
was praising this book
No,
so hard. I'm
but see,
struggling.
it's important information.
It
it's
is.
just it's very dry because it's
Yeah.
just like
Yeah.
in 1940 this happened, and then
Yeah.
it's leading up to
So it's the book you give someone when you want to inform them about the history of the subject,
Yeah.
but also show them what the current day looks like in the same book. It's like a primer.
Yeah.
So the stuff about the 40s, like for example, there's stuff he talks about. I don't know if it's later and he references it, but like naval people who handled strange metals and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's the stuff that's
It's
really
also
interesting.
everything he talks about early on that you think of, this is just raw information's kind of dry. Later on, he's like, remember
Pays
that
it
thing
off.
we were talking about?
Yeah.
This is why that's important.
And it's also interesting because it has an Australian slant to it as well.
Yeah, that's something that's mostly because most UFO
It's very American centric.
material is American centric. So it's interesting that an Australian journalist has compiled it, and also has there are a lot of Australian sightings and other
Witnesses
UFOs,
and such, yeah.
that he talks about. So that's interesting. You usually don't see that.
Yeah.
Ross Coulthard also reads the audio book, which is good because you get to hear it in his own voice.
Yeah.
But he's not as professional as
Yeah.
he's like taking some big breaths. I'm like, geez, calm down. He's gonna collapse.
I would love. It's one thing I've always wondered about like audiobooks. I'm like, are there ever like moments where he just like he's reading the book and then he's like makes an A side and like just tells a little story tangentially related, then gets
That'd be
back to
cool.
the book.
Like
I'd like a director's
audio commentary version of the audio.
I'd like
Yeah.
an audio commentary about the book.
like an annotated.
Yeah, well, because
I'd
especially
listen.
it's
Yeah.
something that in a book like this, right? He could do like 6-month little update where he's like reading the book and the little inserts and like updates on this subject, updates
Yeah.
on that subject. You know what I mean? Keeping it relevant.
like a revised
Yeah,
edition.
yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I'm glad you're reading it because I
Yeah.
think it deserves
Well,
a Pulitzer
when,
myself.
When we when I finish it, and if Nathan finishes it, we'll talk about it properly, and we'll do
Yeah.
a full UFO crazy episode like we did with
Yeah.
Nope. But yeah, it's good, and I think it's also good that, like, if you don't believe in UFOs and aliens and all that, Ross Coulthart is a good person to follow
Yeah.
because he's not super crazy into it. He's just like, here's are the facts, here's what's
Yeah.
been like, here's the evidence.
yeah.
And it's kind of just set out. It's like
Yeah.
kind of dry.
He doesn't look at it from a perspective of I have the
There's no
absolute
bias.
truth for you.
Yeah.
It's here's what these people are saying. Here's what I can find out.
Yeah.
Here's what it
Here's-
means.
Yeah, here's the hard evidence. Here's the...
Although I will say though that the Pentagon has come out and said that it's all Chinese drones, so don't worry about it.
Which is enough. I'm going to stop reading the book now
Yeah,
because
there's
they've
no point.
answered it.
Which
Yeah,
that
it's no
also leads to a more worrying.
Which is actually... Sorry, Nathan. It's actually an important part of why you should listen to all that
Yeah.
early stuff, because from the very beginning, they always pull the same... Deny.
This is swamp gas.
It's
yeah.
swamp gas.
Yeah.
Mass hysteria, mass hallucination. It's like, we know it's not. Like,
But
Yeah.
like, let's just take them at the face value here, right? And say, okay, all of these things are Chinese drones, and then that leads to worrying conclusion.
that's even
that-
more scary.
That's
Yeah.
even scarier because then you've
'Cause
got
they have
say
technology that's so far advanced.
yeah. Then you say
They
that
can
you've got
break
one
physics.
you've got one country with the technology and Chinese drones that are so far advanced, as you said, that can break physics, that
Unparalleled access
They
to
have
global airspace.
unparalleled access to
talked
global
about it.
airspace, unstoppable power. I'm like,
We
what
talked-
stops a country like this? Not specifically Russia. It could be China or Russia. It can be
Yeah,
any
any
country.
country, yeah.
Any country with world dominating power.
if they
All it
had
takes is
that-
one man to be in charge and go
Yeah,
nuts.
If they had that technology, like, they would be already take over the world. So it's
Yeah.
clearly not just Chinese
Yeah.
drones.
You're
But it-
saying the government would lie, James?
no, of course not. I would never say it. There's a gun to my head.
The
right
American government,
Yeah.
I should clarify.
Yeah. No, but we talked about it when we were getting dinner a couple of weeks ago, where it's killing two birds with one stone. One, you get to deny UFOs, so you don't have to know, you don't have to look into it, you don't have to spend time and money, you don't have to
Yeah.
entertain
Also
sightings.
stops uncomfortable questions.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it's the larger philosophical implications. You don't have to do that. And two, you get to drum up fear,
War
you get
tension.
you
Yeah.
get so your
Military industrial complex. and all
exactly.
that.
So your projects get funding. So your people in power get more powerful. The
Yeah.
generals get more fun. Whatever.
yeah.
So that's all they're
Which,
doing.
Which
Yeah.
can possibly tie very neatly into the first movie I wanted to talk about this week,
Oh, okay.
which is JFK by Oliver Stone.
Yeah.
Speaking of war drums,
Yeah. Speaking of conspiracies.
yeah, I'd never seen Oliver Stone's JFK before.
Mm.
My dad loves it; he swears by it.
I love it. It's one of
I've-
my favorites.
So I put it on, and James was like, "So James told me like, oh, they're long movies, or whatever." It's that and the Deer Hunter, which I hope to talk about later.
Yeah.
So I set aside some time one day, and I watched both.
Good.
Like back to
Oh
back.
wow, that's
Um,
a
Well,
feat.
I'll say not back to back. Like it was like 2 days, but like
Okay.
yeah. And man, what a crazy couple of days. But
Yeah.
so JFK, Kevin Costner. Let's do the list. Kevin Costner.
John Candy,
Um,
Donald Sutherland,
What's his name? Tommy Lee
Kevin
Jones.
Bacon,
Tommy Lee Jones.
Jack Lemmon,
Yeah.
Gary Oldman. Yes, thank
Yeah.
you. Oh.
Thank you, Paul. And I was like, Tommy Lee Jones's hair, his wig, is it a wig?
Yeah,
Ridiculous looking.
yeah, yeah.
Before I start salivating over how much I enjoyed the film,
Mm.
I do want to say I did have one problem with it.
Okay.
It's not very often you see bloom lighting used in a movie. It's not very common. It's more used in video games and stuff like that. The problem is when they used bloom lighting in JFK, they use it like the whole way throughout most of the film. So when you get a well lit scene where like it's outside or whatever, and you have the bloom lighting, it looks ugly because like everything so like shines basically. Because they tried to go for a nostalgic look, which works in darker scenes where you have that bloom because it works in the darker scenes. But you get this really washed out, uncomfortable look with the really.
Did you watch it on Blu-ray?
Yeah.
Okay, I've never had that problem.
Yeah, I think it's just me because I looked it up. I'm like, it looks like they're using bloom, and they were using bloom.
Yeah.
Which is like a really early use of that technique in film, I think, or at least that I can.
I don't.
Like I said, I've only ever seen bloom in video games, and I always turn it off because I
What
hate
kind of
bloom.
bloom you thinking of? What?
Video game bloom.
Are you talking about like lens
Lens
flare?
flaring?
No, not lens flaring. Like I looked up on IMDb and it was bloom lighting. The cinematographer wanted a really specific look. Anyway, I got used to it. It was fine.
Yeah.
I like I said, the well lit scenes. I wouldn't. The dark scenes it worked really well.
Yeah.
It's just when you get too much lighting.
Too much for you. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's really interesting. I mean, if you're listening to the show, you've probably seen JFK. It's an older movie, but
I don't know.
Yeah, not that many people have actually, but
I don't know. Like, I still struggle to understand like who listens to the show. Like, if you
Rafael's like, hey, I'm right here.
yeah, no, but I'm like, if you love movies, you'd listen to a movie show. So the people listening love movies, but
Yeah.
whether they've seen a lot of these movies, I just
That's
pull
true.
out of my ass sometimes.
yeah, I don't know. I mean, JFK was a big film,
Especially younger people.
but younger people might not have seen it because it isn't old. But anyway. It cuts together like archival footage plus reenactments plus dramatized scenes taken from a book that they got the rights to
Yeah.
to create a really fascinating look at the JFK conspiracy. So as listeners know, JFK called by Stephen King to be the last gunslinger got gunned down on 11/22/63, which is also the name of a Stephen King book, which is why I remember the date so well.
Good book.
Well,
Yeah.
actually, it should be 22/11.
6 in Australia, yeah, that's right. Yeah. And the movie revolves around the idea that it wasn't just Lee Harvey Oswald who murdered
Yeah.
JFK. So the official story by the government was that Lee Harvey Oswald, I can't remember the motive, but he killed JFK, whatever. But and in my opinion, the facts also are slightly different.
Yeah.
The movie revolves around Kevin Costner playing Mr. Garrison, which made me laugh because I'm a child.
Mr. Garrison.
Yeah, Mr. Garrison. He's a district attorney.
Yeah.
He's a district attorney, I think, for the state of Dallas, I guess, or whatever.
Texas, yeah.
Texas. And he feels like there's more to the truth, so he decides to interview some people.
Yeah.
Because the Walker report, what was it called?
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
The official report into JFK's death gets released, and it basically says, "Oh yeah, Lee Harvey Oswald did it."
Yeah,
And here's
nothing to see here.
yeah,
Everyone
here's a
move
couple
along.
bits of evidence that don't line up with the official story, and
Yeah.
good job everybody.
Yeah.
And so he's like, "This stinks," and so he starts to investigate it. He talks to some witnesses, and he uncovers an entire conspiracy.
Yeah.
And history, in this studio, we would say that he was correct. But
Yeah.
the government and the powers that be said that he was crazy and
Yeah.
that there was no conspiracy. But the movie eventually gets to the climactic scene of the film is the courtroom event where he's trying to sue Clay Shaw
Yeah.
or take down Clay Shaw to be one of the co-conspirators in the death of JFK. And Clay Shaw had alleged CIA connections, but in the real conspiracy, such as it is, there were mob connections and all
sorts
kinds of
crazy
connections.
stuff.
Because
Cuba
it
and
turns out
Soviet,
JFK
yeah.
was not a popular man,
Yeah.
because he was anti-Vietnam, he
Yeah.
was anti-CIA.
He was a dirty Catholic.
That's it. The Pope had him, not the Pope. The Protestants had him killed. Obviously,
Yeah.
and he was also against the FBI, I think, as well.
Yeah.
So he wanted to,
And Bobby Kennedy was investigating the mafia.
and then Bobby Kennedy
got
died.
shot too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, what a coinky dink.
Yeah.
But anyway, long story short, he was a professional Jimmy wrestler. And so anyway, he paid for it in blood.
Yeah.
It's this crazy story that culminates in
It's like an epic 3-hour whodunit about the most famous assassination
of all time. Yeah. And the climax is he unveils a never before to the courtroom people seen video about the death of JFK.
Zapruder film.
Yeah, and you see his head blow like clean off or whatever, and
Yeah.
it was disgusting because I'm pretty sure it was the real video, right?
They would have used partially that.
You know, you see his head like collapse, and I was like,
Yeah.
oh, that's gross. But anyway, was it back and to the left?
back and to the left.
And anyway, the
I get chills, man.
yeah,
I love that movie. So
he
much.
presents to the audience the key finding, if you will, of like the key element, I should say, of the modern conspiracy theory movement.
Yeah.
Is this idea that JFK was murdered because of the truth?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like the magic bullet theory. Like,
Yeah.
they fired 4 shots at JFK, but like one specific shot was allegedly responsible for 7 wounds across 2 different bodies.
Yeah. It's
And
impossible.
it breaks the laws of physics,
Yeah.
but the government said no. That totally happened, bro.
Yeah.
Trust us.
Just ricochet. Don't look into it.
Yeah.
Also, JFK's brain after the autopsy went missing.
Yeah, and they illegally moved his body from Dallas to Washington.
Yeah.
And there's like all kinds of
They wouldn't let the
local mortician, whatever
Yeah.
you want to call it,
Yeah.
look at the body. It had to be
Coroner,
it
yeah.
had to be Washington officials only.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's this disgusting conspiracy, and it made me depressed.
It's-
Because like the power structure, and this is specifically in America,
Yeah.
but the power structure in America is so immense that when they want to do something, nothing on earth can stop it.
Whether you believe in the conspiracy or not, because there's a lot of crazy stuff in the movie, and Oliver Stone is kind of a crazy guy, especially in the last few years.
Yeah.
And whether you believe in all that, just as a film, top 10
Oh, yeah.
amazing, like,
Yeah.
cinema.
I know,
Like,
yeah.
it just, I love it. One of my favorites. Also, now you know where the joke in Seinfeld comes from when he gets spit on at the baseball game, and they're trying to analyze the trajectory of the spit. It's back and to the left.
Yeah.
It's so good. But yeah, it's such a great movie. I love it.
The other movie that
Well,
changed...
but quickly before we
okay.
get to that, we might have a very short break. We'll be back right after this. You are back on the Tuesday review. Callum's giving us his thoughts
Yeah.
on the
We'll
Deer
get,
Hunter.
I was going to say, to segue in the topic of Vietnam and bullet shots, we'll continue, and sadness,
Yeah.
we'll continue
And
with
great American movies.
the Deer Hunter by...
Michael Cimino.
Yeah, and can I just start by saying that he sounds like a real jerk?
Michael Cimino?
Yeah, by reading the IMDb trivia.
Yeah.
It's like they won all these awards.
He's a great filmmaker, but he's, a bit of a
Yeah,
dick.
it's funny because the editor the editor I think won an Academy Award, and then he was like, I edited it myself.
Yeah.
And then the screenwriter was like nominated or whatever, and he was like, that guy's a moron. I wrote the movie myself. I'm like,
Yeah.
like buddy, just grace.
Yeah.
Anyway, so it's like about a quintessential bunch of boys in America who decide to enlist in Vietnam.
Bunch of working class boys.
Yeah, and the movie is like structured so there's 3 clean like arcs to it. You have the first hour or so, which is in
It's a 3-hour long, notoriously long movie.
Yeah, but every minute is not wasted. Every minute is spent just
Honestly,
as it needs.
You know, everyone, people who listen to this know I love long movies. I reckon that hot take, the Deer Hunter could be longer.
It could, and we'll get there.
Yeah.
So the first hour is about a wedding, and then the trek before they go into Vietnam.
Yeah.
And it's this I could watch a whole movie just about Robert De Niro, Christopher Walken, and the other actors whose names escape me.
John Cazale.
What's that? The Meryl Streep.
Yeah, Meryl Streep's in
all
it.
about the wedding and the circumstances around the wedding.
Yeah.
Young Robert De Niro had such a charisma to him. He's got that twinkle in his eye. He was like, I watched it. I'm like, I can see why he became he was a star at the time.
Yeah.
But you can see why he was such a powerful force because he carries himself with a certain magnetism.
Yeah.
But Christopher Walken as well, the chemistry between them. And I felt there was a homosexual angle to the film before I looked it up. And I looked it up, and it was, in fact, like there was this unspoken thing between Michael and Nick.
Let me look it up.
It turns out that that was on purpose. It's like this. The whole reason they reference it Robert De Niro's character is like, popular with the ladies or whatever, but he never dates anyone, whatever. And he even gets called a faggot in the film, and Walken goes nuts on the guy. Anyway,
I don't think I ever picked that up. Maybe I did, and I just
it
forgot
was very noticeable to me. But I think it was,
I just felt like when you get a whole bunch of guys together and they get drunk, there's gonna be homoeroticism.
Oh, it's the way they look at each other. It's very Sam and Frodo.
Yeah.
Hey, we're not even drunk yet. There's time.
Yeah, I know, yeah. No, but it's the tell is when someone calls Robert De Niro a slur,
Yeah.
and then because he didn't sleep with a lady at like a bar or whatever, and then Christopher Walken gets really mad about it, and they yell at each other and stuff. Anyway, and then Robert De Niro strips naked and runs through the streets, and like they hug. Man, I mean, it doesn't get more obvious.
Yeah. No, but the way you were phrasing it was like this is
Oh, no,
actually
it's
about
not,
a secretly.
No. It's not Brokeback Mountain. No. It's a lot more. It's a lot more subtle than that because they couldn't get away. I guess they couldn't tell that kind of story back then, really. Anyway, you got the first hour is this beautiful wedding scene and the surrounding story arcs about it, and the music. I wanted to watch it in the cinema as loud as I possibly could with that choir music.
Yeah.
Mind blowing. And like the beautiful like Roman Catholic, is it the Orthodox Roman or whatever it is?
Yeah.
It's like this really interesting wedding with the interesting cinematography. And then they go to Nam.
Yeah, hard cut, right?
Yeah, hard cut.
There's
Vietnam, suffering begins.
Yeah, there's no hand holding, no introductory scene.
Yeah, there's no landing on the plane. Oh, let's go to see where we're sleeping, boys.
Yeah, no trekking through the jungle, just hard cut. You're in Vietnam, boys.
Yeah, under fire. Yeah.
And like the next hour is just hell.
Yeah, it's like crazy Vietnam stuff.
Yeah.
And then you get to one of the famous scenes with the Russian roulette and the yelling and
Mao.
Mao, yeah. Awesome, just awesome. Again, like I said, the Robert De Niro stuff, the alpha energy, to use that term I don't really like.
Yeah.
But the way he carries himself, there's that authority. It's awesome. And then you get you get that arc where the characters find out who they are, if you know what I mean. Like that they discover their metal or lack, or in some cases lack thereof. And then you get the third act, which ties it all together with like the return of De Niro to Vietnam to find one of the characters who's currently missing.
Yeah.
To essentially put all the pieces together and do it again to salvage it all. And it ends this beautiful apocalyptic arc where it's like the end of Vietnam. So you've got all the people leaving, you've got the bustling.
That's crazy.
And it's like you got that fires and stuff. And it's like this beautifully dark arc where it's like not very
also
well
like
lit.
it's like a not detective, like
Yeah,
a film noir. Like he's trying to find his
and he's in
friend
this
and
white
stuff.
shirt, and it's iconic to look at. It's awesome. And then you get that tragic ending, which I won't spoil.
Yeah.
But beautiful cinematography. You got the people around the table. Incredible cinema.
Yeah. It's every episode I say they don't make movies like they used to.
They don't.
They don't release mainstream movies like this anymore.
And like
could you imagine going to see a movie like this? At
I
the
would
cinema?
love it, man. I would die happy, man.
No, I mean, could you imagine it getting released at the cinema today?
No,
never.
The scene where Michael returns from Vietnam the first time, and he doesn't go to see them, and he goes to the hotel room, and like he just like tries to hold it together.
Yeah.
I nearly cried. It's such a powerful scene.
It's a very heavy.
He doesn't
movie.
say one word in that scene. And so you can tell all the trauma that he's still currently carrying. De Niro expresses it through his body, and you don't see actors. I mean, you do see actors that can do that, but they don't get an opportunity to do so in such a poignant way.
Not in every movie.
Not in every movie.
Not in mainstream movies.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, I was talking to somebody at work today. It's all blockbusters now. If it doesn't earn $1 billion, it's not worth putting out. But man, like I said, that scene, like stuff you carry with you in movies, it makes movies so awesome.
Yeah.
Is that like they leave a mark on you? You take them, you think, like I said, I watched the movie like last week sometime. I think about it every day. I'm still carrying it with
It's
me.
one of those movies that I can imagine there's movies like Schindler's List or Requiem for a Dream where people are like, oh, it's a great movie, but I'll only watch it once.
Yeah.
The Deer Hunter, I think, can be included in that where you're like, oh, this is so heavy
Yeah.
that it's like...
It has such beauty to it as well.
No, I've seen it a few times, but I'm just saying it's a very, very heavy movie.
Yeah.
One, it just imprints on your psyche, like you'll never forget it.
No.
But two, I think a lot of people, it's like you watch it once, you're like, okay, that's enough.
Well, the interesting thing about it is that it's like shot on location, at least partially. So you get these sweeping vistas when they're in the wilderness hunting, and it's gorgeous.
We talked about it. It's like they don't make movies like this anymore, where they go out and they film it at the place. You know, even the deer, like the shots of the deer running through the forest. Now that would be CGI.
Yeah,
and it would look
a
like
floppy
garbage.
deer. Yeah,
I don't know how many times I've seen a CGI deer in the last 10, 15 years.
yeah.
Every goddamn movie and show has CGI deer. And I understand we talked about it. There's animal rights issues and, you know, whatever.
Just go to the forest and shoot the deer.
Use documentary footage and grade it so it looks like it's part of the movie. Just it's
The scene where they go hunting after Michael returns from Nam with the gun. Oh, edge of my seat, so uncomfortable.
apparently that gun was really loaded.
Yeah, so what happened was for all of the Russian roulette scenes in the movie, De Niro wanted to add tension to the set, so there was one real bullet in the gun at all times. But
No. I think just for the scene where he's pointing at his friend.
oh, well, I didn't read that part.
Yeah.
I read that they had to. I read it was through the Russian roulette scenes. But
No, I don't think it was that.
but either
That would be
way-
too dangerous. even
either
for
way-
them.
You know what I'm saying?
Either way,
Nah,
for
yeah,
Those
the,
crazy bastards.
You know how many takes they
No,
took?
no. I can't
Odds
remember.
are with you,
I
man.
can't remember if it was one of the actors or the director or whatever, but they would compulsively check the
Oh,
barrel.
you bloody want to, yeah.
They couldn't do that today, not after
No.
Rust.
Well, see, that's the thing with Rust. Like that was completely mishandled. The person handling the weapons was inexperienced. They were playing with guns. It was bad. Most Hollywood movies, there's someone professional. The guns don't actually have the ability to
Harm anybody.
harm
yeah.
anyone. So that was a completely different thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean,
But yeah, that seemed crazy. But
Yeah.
like the idea that there was live ammunition in the area.
yeah, that's the 70s were crazy, man.
Yeah.
That's why, yeah, like you'll never recapture. That's why I always say Apocalypse Now is probably my favorite because you'll never recapture that.
No.
You'll never, like, in a million years.
Um,
Can I say one thing I don't like about The Deer Hunter?
yeah, go for it.
De Niro's beard.
I didn't mind it.
At the first hour of the movie, you're like, okay, he has a beard, whatever. Then he goes to Vietnam, he doesn't have a beard. I'm like, well, that makes sense. He's a soldier. He'd shave his beard.
Yeah.
Then he comes back to America and he's got the beard again. I'm like, no, he should have shaved it in Vietnam and left it unshaved. Or
Yeah.
he should have shaved and then he should have just let it grow, his whole beard grow back slowly over the rest of it. That's just a nitpick.
No, I can understand that.
There's something weird about it. I'm like, I've never seen.
It was interesting when I was looking at the movie, reading about the movie after. That De Niro reckons that it was the scene with the hospital where him and that other soldier
Yeah.
was the most emotional.
That's a heavy. I mean,
Was
the whole
the-
movie's heavy.
Was the most emotional moment of his career.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, I can see
Oh,
that.
also speaking of crazy 70s movies that they don't do anymore, the helicopter scene where they're like hanging
Yeah.
from
Yeah,
the thing, and they had to do multiple takes.
I know.
Tom Cruise saw that as a boy and was like, yes.
Yes.
Like and De Niro and the
They
other.
nearly like broke their feet and
yeah,
stuff.
and they had to do it more, and they're like they insisted on doing it themselves. Or maybe the director insisted they do it, but I'm pretty sure
probably
De
the
Niro
director.
wanted to do it. And they kept doing it, like having to redo it. I'm like, that's crazy. You'd never see that. In a
And then in
movie
the
anymore.
water, and the guy's like, "There's rats in here, Michael," and he's actually talking to the director.
Yeah,
And they kept it in the film.
but to be fair though, I thought like that scene is. Oh my god,
Yeah.
John Savage, the actor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, what a
Goddamn.
brilliant movie. It hits all the emotions.
Did you get the 4K?
There's a 4K.
Yeah.
We have the Classics Remastered Blu-ray at the moment.
Oh, maybe the 4K was only released overseas.
I'm gonna get the 4K.
I got the 4K collector's edition with
Oh my
like
God.
the soundtrack CD and like
Wow.
all the little booklet and little photo.
I'm gonna have to
cards.
investigate that.
Yeah, it cost me a
Um,
fortune. But
I
it was
bet it
worth
did. But yeah, I recommend people should watch that because I think it hits all the notes. You know,
Oh, it's one of the all-time great
like I can't
movies, one of the-
oversell it.
best movies of the 70s.
Yeah.
And yeah, like I think you messaged me and you're like, it's top 5 my favorite, like top 5 movie now.
Yeah, because like I said, it hasn't left me since. So
Yeah.
gotta watch it. It's incredible. But yeah, I could keep going, but we've only got. So Fire in the Sky. We'll do real quick.
Okay, yeah. So finally, after
Yeah.
how many years of me bugging you to watch JFK and The Deer Hunter and especially Eye in the Sky,
Yeah.
Fire in the Sky, Callum finally watches them all at once.
Yeah. Yeah, based on a true story, Travis Walton was allegedly abducted by a UFO when he was with his logging buddies. There's differences in the story portrayed, but it's
the
one of those
movie's
things
different
where,
from his account.
yeah, they wanted
and
to Hollywood it up,
Yeah.
which makes sense, I guess. The general idea is that it's like a 2-part tale where they're loggers, and then he gets abducted after seeing a bright light in the forest.
Yeah.
His friends go back to town, and then the story is, did they murder him? Did they not, or whatever?
Yeah, the police come to investigate, and it's
and
told in flashback.
They're all under suspicion, and then suddenly he reappears and is unintelligible, as you would be.
Yeah.
And
they're
then
trying to figure out
and
what
then
happened to
eventually
him.
he begins to tell his side of the story or whatever, or has
Yeah.
flashbacks. And it's this really interesting movie, which is largely practical in nature. Which is, gorgeous. I watched it on Blu-ray. It looks gorgeous.
Yeah.
It has the funniest aliens, some of the funniest aliens. Like, everyone was scared by him, but the facial expression,
The
facial expression by one of the aliens when he starts like messing around, he has this "Will you stop?" expression on his face, and I was
aliens,
just like,
they seem really mean.
Yeah,
Not
they-
only because they're torturing him, but just the facial expression.
yeah, he had this
It's
kind
like,
of.
not spite. What is it? Like scorn.
Yeah, but
like-
it made me laugh because
Yeah.
they have this like, oh, I'm so busy. I'm too
they
busy
also-
for this
yeah,
expression.
I think it's also because they have a little face and a big head, and it makes them look
Yeah.
funny.
But
yeah, as soon
they
as
do
I-
stuff to him, and it's uncomfortable
Yeah,
to watch
because
with
I'd
the
always-
famous facial stuff.
Yeah, I had always heard about that movie. It's this is great, a great UFO movie with this great abduction scene, and it was never released on Blu-ray until this year. And
Yeah.
funnily enough, the only place it was released was in Australia, which
Nice.
usually we get nothing. So,
Yeah.
and I watched it when it came out, and I straight away I'm like, Callum, you have to watch this movie. It has the best like abduction scene.
Yeah, Jacob Ladder-esque.
Yeah, exactly. He
Yeah.
wakes up on the ship, and it's like next level.
Yeah.
I was like, holy crap.
Yeah. The real story is more interesting. The
It's a lot, the real story is a lot different and more unbelievable.
kinda. So the real story is that he gets abducted and there are aliens around, and he gets scared.
Yeah.
But then some humanoid-looking people, more like people who look more human,
Yeah.
in like suits or something, kind of escort him to safety.
Yeah. It's like if that was in the movie, you'd be like, what the hell is this?
Yeah. But his story is more UFO traditional,
Mm.
because that's like classic UFO stuff. Is
Yeah.
that the aliens first, then the more
And
people looking people second.
Who's the guy in that documentary that we watched? David Huggins, is that his name? The guy who painted the pictures.
Oh yeah.
You know, like people who do say they have been abducted always have the weirdest stories. That's
Yeah.
not just your typical stuff you see in the movies.
Yeah.
It's always something that's just like, wait, what?
Yeah, like,
there
like
was
alien babies and weird
alien with
stuff.
the wig,
The wig,
hair,
yeah,
and it's just
classic,
like,
yeah.
wait, what?
It's because I mean, if you investigate the subject enough, you'll see that one of the whole things they do is trickery. They, what's the word? When something you sound crazy telling people, that's on purpose.
yeah.
There's a word for it
To-
they use.
yeah. I know what you mean.
It's
To-
escaping me.
de-
But yeah.
deliberately,
Yeah, that's me. That's 3 movies I watched. I could keep going, but it's not fair. What's Nathan been watching?
No, you keep going.
I mean, are you sure?
We can always do another
I
one.
don't care.
Well,
keep
We can always go long.
yeah, I watched Thief by Michael Mann.
Oh yes.
And that movie was awesome.
Another one of my favorites.
Yeah, just awesome. I watched the was it Classics Remastered? I don't know.
No, there's Criterion.
Criterion. Yeah, I watched the
Yeah, I like the
Criterion copy.
Criterion one,
And
yeah.
man, it made me so happy. It's like it's not really a noir movie as such.
Kind of, yeah. A little
But
bit
like
is, yeah.
visually, it's like wet. They had 60,000 gallons of water like at all times to like make all the pavements wet because he wanted
Yeah.
the lights to reflect
yeah,
them.
the whole neon, yeah.
And
so
it was like,
cool.
it's this neon soaked
Yeah.
cityscape. It's like
Synthy.
it's
Tangerine
synthy.
Dream
It's like
soundtrack.
nightimey kind
I
of
listen
like.
to the Tangerine Dream soundtrack of Thief like regularly.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah.
Top 10 soundtracks. It's incredible.
Oh man,
And it's about this like manly man guy who's a thief,
James
but
Caan.
yeah, James Caan, one of his best performances, and he kind of he has morals. He doesn't kill people really. He's like this.
He's like a bank robber. Like he
Yeah,
doesn't.
but he doesn't scare people. It's
Yeah,
like places
he's
that
not
he
a
can get.
thug, yeah.
He gets in and out, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's this. They use practical stuff. It's awesome to watch as they drill into vaults and you see the sparks.
And it's just like music and
Yeah.
vibes, and oh my god. I
yeah,
love
and
it
it's
so
like, and
much.
also his dialogue is so great.
Yeah.
There's so many cool things about
That's
the movie.
another great, like, I mean, it came out in 81, I think, but it's a great kind of 70s style movie where it's just kind of gritty, so kind of realistic, kind
Yeah.
of like, you know, when I talked about I miss movies like that where it's just like balding guy smoking cigarettes, it's that kind of vibe, you know? You know, the guy, like when he goes to that big fat bald guy who gives him the diamonds?
Yeah.
Like that guy, I don't think was that guy an actor? Like where
Who
did they
knows?
find him?
Who
I love
knows?
those
Yeah.
I love those kinds of movies.
Michael
like,
Mann found diamonds and it was like, yeah, dude.
Yeah,
Sell
find-
them. He told James Caan, sell them to this dude.
Yeah, he found a fence, a real
Yeah.
fence, and was like, you know, can you?
But
give me the
it's all cool stuff, like cool stuff that I love. Like I love crime movies and
Yeah.
like crime video games. It was like watching a 70s version of a GTA story play out,
Yeah, I
where you
mean,
had like the bank
that's-
robber.
GTA is heavily influenced by Michael Mann and other crime
Yeah,
movies.
but like there's an awesome part where they're looking at they go interstate and they're looking at the bank or whatever it is.
Yeah,
And they're like looking across the way, and they're like, okay, we're gonna get into the top here, and he starts explaining it.
Yeah.
I'm like, yes, this is what I love.
oh yeah,
Like, give it to me.
Heist-
give me the
yeah.
give me
The
the,
heist-
diagrams.
the plan-
show me the wires.
Yeah,
we're gonna
planning-
tap in here.
planning the heist is one of cinema's great pleasures.
Yeah. But there's that cool part where he goes to his his older friend who works in like the fire whatever,
Yeah.
the forge, and he's like, I need something that burns this hot because I have to get through this
Yeah,
this
the
really rare safe, and then you see it in action,
Yeah.
and it's like sparking into this thing, and
Yeah,
it's
so
everyone's wearing
cool.
protective
The
gear,
goggles, the
and
reflection
it looks
on the goggles.
it looks fantastic.
Yeah.
It's such a cool film.
Oh yeah,
It's just cool.
Like yeah, out of all the movies, like this is one of the top 5-10 movies you can say this is cool.
Cool.
Yeah,
Yeah. And yeah, I loved it.
yeah, it's great.
Awesome. I watched Legend as well. Rewatched Legend.
Oh my god,
On
you hit
4K?
all the heavy hitters.
Yeah, I know. I've been
It's
going
not
nuts.
released on 4K.
Yeah, it is.
Legend.
Oh, I'm sorry. I bought Legend. I haven't received it yet. I watched Labyrinth on 4K.
Oh, okay, that's it.
Yeah. No,
Legend-
Legend's coming apparently.
Yeah, but it's not on 4K.
It's
because
coming
they-
apparently, but
No, because apparently there's the rights issues where
Yeah.
they couldn't. Yeah, but yeah, I got Legend on Blu-ray. The that limited edition, I think Arrow did it, but they
Yeah,
couldn't,
I
they
bought it
couldn't
too,
release
yeah.
on 4K. Yeah,
I
which
bought
is
the
disappointing.
Arrow one, but it's taking its time.
Yeah, but Labyrinth I got on 4K. Yeah, that's a great.
Oh,
movie.
Eyes Wide Shut on 4K is coming apparently sometime.
Oh, they announced
That's what I
it.
was thinking about. Well,
Well,
it's
they
got
did
a
all the other most of the other.
yeah,
Kubrick
it's got a
movies.
website. There's like a TBA thing for.
I
Anyway.
don't want to buy any Kubrick movies on 4K because I'm afraid they're going to release a box set.
They
Yeah.
will, 100%.
And I don't want to buy them all indivially and then the box set. So I'm just waiting and
Yeah,
fingers
No,
crossed.
That's a
that
good
they
idea
do.
to wait.
But
But
I
anyway,
hope they do.
I watched
'cause
Labyrinth
I'm
on 4K. I
Yeah.
rewatched it. I've seen it quite a few times.
Yeah,
But man, David Bowie, what a star.
man, I
Um,
love that dance.
Yeah, and the
dance,
thing with
magic
Orb.
dance. Yeah,
Jennifer Connelly, what a star.
yeah.
But you know what stands out to me the most?
Hmm.
Muppets don't age. They just don't. Puppets, I
man.
should say. You know,
Jim Henson, baby.
that's it. You got your matte painting backgrounds.
Mm.
Tick my box.
Yeah.
You got your puppets. Tick more of my boxes. There's no CG.
No.
You know what I mean? It looks as good now as the day when it was released.
Yeah.
Phenomenal film.
It's amazing. One of
You
the
know?
classics.
Yeah, I know it's a kids film, but shoot, you know, what are you gonna do? Sue me?
But 80s kids movies were
Yeah.
the best. You know, like Never Ending Stories,
Yeah.
Dope,
That's it.
Legend. You know, all those kind of movies that came out. Dark Crystal, you know, we talked
Yeah.
about. Like all those kind of movies that came out around that time. are
There's
so
such
cool.
love in it, you know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, loved it. So cool.
Yeah, great.
Yeah. Should I keep going?
We got a few minutes left.
Yeah, I know. I'm just trying to run through the list. I watched Arrival and Contact pretty much back to back.
That's a good double feature.
I need to watch Cocoon. I need to get like
Yeah,
my
Cocoon's
alien
good.
communication movies down.
Cocoon's a good, like, wholesome, you know, sci-fi.
But yeah, because obviously UFOs are a big part of what we think about.
Mm.
So I've been thinking about that. The how do we communicate with them? So I was like, I'm gonna watch Contact.
Mm.
And then I watched Contact, and I love Contact as much as the
Great
next
movie,
guy.
yeah.
But then, like I was talking about it with you, there's the whole religious angle, which is kind
Yeah,
of
I mean,
annoying.
yeah, that part. I mean, that
I-
part of the movie, I've always been like, felt very like we have to be. I mean, if I was making the movie, I would go a bit harder on like, oh, these religious dickheads are ruining it for everyone else.
It's not that. I'll be like, you don't need it. Have people believe her more. You don't need
Yeah.
to. You don't need to make it so it's 50-50 where there's
Yeah,
like you know what I mean.
But I
you
feel like
can have
it's a very American kind
Yeah.
of
It's an-
viewpoint of
it
like,
is,
well,
yeah.
actually, both sides have the. It's
Yeah.
like no, science.
experienced it, yeah.
yeah, science should be what they're counting on. Scientists
Yeah.
should be what they're counting on.
So it's a cool film with a couple of
Great
story
movie, though.
problems.
A lot, you know, that people talk about a lot. That shot at the opening of the movie with the mirror, where she's
Yeah.
running down the hall, and then and she's actually running towards. It's like, holy crap! Still
Yeah.
amazing.
And then Arrival, of course, is you know, a great companion piece because
yeah.
it's like, what if they did take science more seriously? Even though it's a different film, the alien, instead of them going to the aliens come to them,
Come to
and
them, yeah.
it's the struggle to communicate with a species that you know you don't have a reference point for.
Yeah.
So it's, you know, the journey to discover how to communicate with them. But it's also about, you know, you look into her relationships, her memory, the idea of memory.
Yeah. Time.
The
Yeah.
idea about how does language shape the way we view the world. All very interesting things which don't get discussed enough. Communication generally, like this it's such an interesting thing, like
That's one of the-
communicating with things that don't originate on Earth, whether
Yeah.
you want to call them little green men or
That's one
whatever.
of the last mainstream sci-fi movies that was kind of high concept like that.
Yeah,
You know, that had those kind of ideas.
yeah,
Because usually it's just loud and dumb stuff.
yeah.
That's the last, like, I'm sure there's other ones that I'm forgetting, but like, you know, you know, in the 90s, if a movie like Arrival came out, you'd be like, of course.
Yeah.
But now a movie like Arrival comes out and you're like, oh, this is different because most things is just loud
Yeah.
CGI.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So yeah, I'm sure there's more I'm forgetting, but I've got quite a few on my list. I have Everything Everywhere All at Once I've got to get through.
Have you started it?
No.
Okay.
That's on my I have a whole big I'm doing James style. I've got a bit of a shelf thing going on.
Nice. I love that
Um,
movie. Best movie of the year.
Got RoboCop to get through
My favorite, second
on
favorite
4K.
movie.
Yeah, I've got a bunch, man.
You're basically just going through all my favorite movies now.
Yeah.
So
I got somewhere in there.
yeah, that I can't vouch for.
All right, look, we're all out of time for the live show. Live listeners, stick around for Car Talk with Manny J coming up next. We'll be right back after this short break. Welcome back to the Tuesday review. It's now my turn for the round table.
Sorry, Nathan.
So I'm bringing it down a little bit because I have the trashy taste.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nathan
James
has-
just like, damn it.
Nathan
We should have
has
just ended it.
questionable
We should have just ended it with Callum.
Yeah.
I've been watching the Chucky movies.
Oh, that's good.
I haven't seen them all yet. I've seen the first
What are you up to?
5.
5, okay.
I'm up to 6.
So you've seen Seed?
Yes. It starts good. Okay. No, Child's Play's good.
The first one's, first two are the best.
First, well, I don't know. I like 3 more than 2.
That is such a Nathan opinion.
Why?
3 is like, you can tell they were kind of running out of ideas. You could tell they made it quickly.
I like the
You
whole
can tell-
idea about just keeping it all in like the kind of the
military
boarding
academy.
school.
Yeah. It just, it's not bad, but it's for you to say, oh, it's better than the first two. Such a Nathan opinion.
It's maybe it's just as good as number 1. I wouldn't say I didn't like 2 as much.
Really, I think two is maybe starts off a bit slow, but like once it gets going, I think 2's really good.
No, I like number 3. I like at the end when he replaces some of the fake guns
the
with the real
blanks.
guns.
Yeah,
I like that.
Apparently, in the script, that was a lot more brutal, like a massacre, like a bloodbath. But then in the movie, I guess they're like, no, it's a bit much.
Yeah.
And there's only one guy who gets kind of shot.
And then what happens in 4? That's Bride of
Four's
Chucky.
Bride, yeah.
That's okay.
I think that one like skews like for me. I'm not a big fan of the whole like comedy aspect of it. But I guess at that point in the series is like I guess it makes sense. I do really like Tiffany. I think that was a good addition.
Tiffany was fine. I didn't mind that. I liked Seed of Chucky more.
That's fair enough.
Seed
is more interesting.
Interesting is one word. I would also say kind of rips off Wes Craven's A New Nightmare quite hard at times.
It's very meta, yeah.
Yeah, but in the same way, like Wes Craven did it better 10 years before this movie came out.
Yeah, but
Yeah. Obviously.
it's hard. I mean, New Nightmare was like really good though.
Yeah. But it was also, it kind of borrows heavily from that idea about what, but Chucky's now a movie and there's actors.
Yeah,
and,
it's kind of, and it's like the Scream, like Scream came out and everyone was like, oh, meta, that's another Wes Craven.
and I feel like,
it's
was Redman really that big in the early 2000s?
Well,
or is he just the only celebrity they could get
The
from the
problem was
movie?
originally Don Mancini wanted Tarantino, which that would have made sense.
Yeah.
To get it, like, because it's like, is it supposed to be the famous
Yeah,
director character?
yeah.
And I guess eventually, like, they couldn't get anyone, so they're like, let's get Redman. And he's good in the movie, but it doesn't really make sense.
Yeah,
like,
it's
they
like
needed a
Redman,
famous filmmaker.
Like a big movie. Yeah.
Yeah, but they also needed a famous filmmaker who you would believe would
Yeah.
be doing this. So, like, if it was Tarantino, I think the movie would have automatically been way better.
Yeah.
You know,
So look, I watched them. Yeah, like they're interesting.
it's interesting, right?
They,
Like,
I think I agree with what you said. I do appreciate the fact that, as you said when you were talking about it in Halloween weeks, every movie tries something different.
yeah, like after Chucky 3, after Child's Play 3, and like they kind of, Don Mancini was like, we've done all the ideas we can do. And then there was a huge gap between 3 and Bride of Chucky. And then he's just like, all right, let's get a bit more meta. Let's get a bit funnier. And he's like, it's kind of like a rom-com kind of Bonnie and
Yeah.
Clyde on the road movie. It's like, and then the next one, he's like, okay, how do we change it again? And so, yeah, it keeps it from, even though I might not particularly really love Bride of Chucky or even Seed, even though I think the first two are still the best, it keeps it from getting stale and it keeps it from getting repetitive.
I think they're all different. They're all unique. They all have something different to
Yeah.
offer, which I appreciate. They're not all great,
No,
but at least
it's
they're.
got something.
It's
yeah.
not just a retread of the
Yeah.
same movie again and again and
Yeah,
again.
and it's interesting, like what I think we talked about in the Halloween episodes, where I'm like, Don Mancini, he's like interested in Chucky and Tiffany as characters. They're not just movie monsters. And I talked about how, you know, that I like it when they're just monsters, but also it's like, it's kind of more interesting if you keep developing these characters over time. And
Definitely. I also watched the first episode or the premiere of Taylor Sheridan's new show Tulsa King
okay, the
with
Stallone.
with the Stallone. It's so far it's interesting. It's not like, it doesn't take itself too seriously, but it's a Grand Theft Auto plot. Like Sylvester Stallone.
Well, we just talked about
it's a classic crime.
The GTA is influenced by a lot of classic crime movies.
It's a classic crime kind of plot. Stallone is like a gangster who gets out of prison after 25 years.
Yeah.
And of course, you know, the mob's changed in modern day. There's not much for him in New York.
Yeah.
And so they send him to Tulsa.
The old Vice City.
Yeah, exactly.
Plot.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Basically, he gets sent to Tulsa to see if he can sort of get anything started in Tulsa down there.
Yeah.
Start new. And so he's, you know, sort of, it's, you side A is he's also like looking at the world now in a modern day lens. So he's, you know, it's a different world than he
Yeah,
sort of
when he went away.
went
yeah.
away. So it's kind of like a fish out of water story, but also a crime story. And it's a guilty pleasure part of me is you want him to succeed in his crime as well. It's one
Well,
of those
that's
things
all
where it's
crime
like,
movies.
yeah,
Where,
in a way, but you've got Breaking Bad, for instance, all that kind of stuff, where it also kind of like shows the negative side and all this kind of stuff. It's not a show that I would have expected to see today, where it's very much like you want Stallone to succeed in
Well,
his crime.
I mean, you're only up to the first episode, right?
True, but
So-
it paints it in a certain
But
way.
from what you're saying, I haven't seen it, but like from what you're saying, it seems like it's just, I don't want to use the word lighthearted, but
it is
it's
fairly
not-
lighthearted.
Yeah, it's not going to.
No, it's not. It's not a dramatic kind of,
Yeah,
you know, drama-filled kind
Yeah.
of show. So far, at least, I should say.
yeah.
But no, I like it. He does a pretty good performance.
Stallone is a good actor.
Yeah.
Have you seen Copland?
Yes.
Every time people say Stallone's not a good actor, I say, please watch Rocky 1 and 2 and watch Copland.
Like, you know, the man's 75 years old. He's doing all right.
Yeah.
Well, 75, 76. He's doing all right.
Hmm.
And it's not bad. I will continue to watch it.
Yeah. I saw the trailer, I was like,
Maybe You know what? Like the episode's only like 40 minutes each, and like I'll
Yeah.
give it a go. It's nice and breezy, and it makes me laugh.
Yeah.
It's pretty good. It's like not a comedy, but it balances that line between very light drama and kind of like comedy.
Yeah.
So it's
I know. I
not.
think I know what you mean.
It just fits a vibe.
yeah.
Um,
It's not heavy viewing.
Nah,
yeah.
it's not heavy viewing. The only other thing I've got to talk about really is I've been continuing to watch My Hero Academia. I'm in season 4 now.
Well, we haven't talked about
No.
that on air. We talked
No,
about off air.
I've been watching My Hero Academia, the anime show, which Alan and Jake have been talking about recently, and I've been sort of sold into watching it, I should say. It's because season 6 has recently
Released.
started,
Yeah.
and it has a very big reputation.
It's one of the most famous
Yeah.
animes out right now.
One of the popular modern ones.
Yeah.
Basically, it's about a society in which 80% of the population develop quirks or superpowers. It's basically the X-Men,
Yeah.
right? 80% of the population develop superpowers when they sort of, I guess, up to adolescence.
Yeah.
The last 20%, once they hit adolescence, if they don't have superpowers, they're not going to
They're
have
not going to get them, yeah.
and it's about sort of a main character who is born without superpowers or doesn't have superpowers, and through certain means he acquires them later on. And it's about his sort of journey to becoming the world's best hero. It's told in a way like it's basically narrated by the future protagonist. From the episode to start, like this is the story of how I became
like
the
How
world's
I Met Your
greatest.
Mother style.
Yeah, exactly. It's told from a future perspective, which I actually quite enjoy.
Because you
Like-
know there's an end goal in mind, I guess.
Yeah, you
'Cause
like it's a
you'd
very
hope so.
positive, upbeat show in a way. Like the show always has a positive message, right? It's always about like kind of doing all cheesy bullshit, doing your best, all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But it's not. It doesn't have a vein of kind of pessimism through it. It's all just like very positive and upbeat, uplifting.
Yeah.
It's good. I'm liking it so far. There's no fat on it, which is my major problem with like anime and all that kind of stuff. It's like you Bleach, you get a filler arc. The filler arc goes for 50, 60 episodes.
That's the problem. That's a problem with anime. It's either like you get the one season and you're good, or you get a million seasons and a billion episodes, and
Yeah.
it's like no, too much.
Yeah, exactly.
So this one being season 6, I'm like, oh, I don't know if I want to invest time in that. But it seems like
it's all it's all
more-
killer, no filler.
yeah,
it's
it's not one of those.
there's a lot-
ones that goes forever.
like there's a lot of episodes, but there's no filler arc. It's all leading towards a goal.
That's
They all
good,
propel
yeah.
the story forward.
There's like it's like the time progresses in the show, right? It's about a high school, I guess, essentially.
Yeah.
Where they train
High
to
school
be
for
heroes
heroes.
and all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. But it time actually progresses. It's not like a sitcom where it just kind of just stays in the same
Yeah.
vein for like 600
Every
episodes.
every
Yeah.
episode resets at the end, and no,
Yeah, exactly.
this
No,
is
no.
like
Time moves
continues.
forward. There's a plot
Yeah.
that gets driven forward every episode. It's like really has momentum.
I'm assuming it's based on a manga because they're all based
Yeah.
on mangas.
Yeah,
Is
it's
the
based on
manga
manga.
finished or is it also ongoing?
That's
don't know.
I'm not sure.
Because that's the danger of
Yeah,
if the manga keeps going and then they have to keep the show going, or if the manga ends and then or if the manga doesn't end but they have to end the show, so they have to make up an
Yeah.
ending.
yeah. No, I'm not sure about if it's ongoing or finished. I'm not going to look it up because I don't want to
No,
spoil
no,
myself.
Yeah.
But no, I'm really enjoying it. It's a good time.
Also, plus points. The English dub of the main character sounds like Morty from Rick and Morty.
Actually-
so plus points.
Apparently, it's Jake was telling me that most of the Funimation dubs on anime they use the same sort of stable or roster of voice actors for their English
Yeah,
dubs.
yeah, they do.
And the voice acting in My Hero Academia is actually top notch.
Yeah.
Like it's
Yeah.
not phoned in. It's like
Oh,
actually,
mate.
it's like some dubs are a bit iffy, but
Yeah.
the My Hero dub is actually like top quality.
I mean, you get your anime purists, but for anime, I've always been like
No,
dub,
yeah.
dub
Jake-
over sub unless like there's a specific.
Jake and Alan usually are the purists.
Yeah.
But Jake's the first to admit when it comes to My Hero, the dub is so good that it's the best way to watch it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we talked about this a few times on the show. Like Cowboy Bebop, I do not like the Japanese dub.
Look, let me
And-
put it this way. If you tell me you prefer Goku in the Japanese dub,
That's yeah. No,
I was
yeah.
say I will call you a liar
Yeah.
to your face.
Yeah, see that one. Yeah, see, I think Japanese voice acting can be so grating and
Because they use a woman
Yeah.
for like
and it's so wrong for the character.
yeah, he said like it's the same voice actor that they used in Dragon Ball.
Yeah.
So it's like he has a little girl's
'Cause when
voice.
he's a kid,
kinda.
when he's a kid,
yeah,
it makes
a little
sense,
boy's
yeah.
voice, I should say, and it's just it's
so annoying.
It's weird.
Yeah.
So yeah, then
No.
sometimes the English
If
dub
it's-
is vastly superior.
Yeah. No, I usually listen to the.
No, but otherwise, yeah, it's a good show. I think you'd like it.
I like anime is something like
And the episode's only 20 minutes each.
yeah, there are ones I'm interested in that I want to get into, but I'm always worried about this is going to keep going forever. Or
I don't think it will.
yeah,
Only because time actually moves forward in this show.
yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
but, and again, if you
But-
skip through the opening credits and the end credits, it's literally just
20
like
minutes.
19 to 20 minute
Yeah.
episodes.
Actually, I've been watching Chainsaw Man, and the episodes are like 20
good?
minutes or whatever. Like, yeah, I mean, I have problems with it, but like, I think the episodes are too short. Like, there are other anime
The manga
where, they're 20.
the manga chapters are tiny.
Yeah, like most anime.
I mean, they're
20,
they're 19 pages. Like,
Yeah.
but the chapters go real
th-
quick as
I
well.
think it's
so-
also the storytelling. Like, there are a lot of anime where it's your classic 20-minute episodes, but they pack in a lot of story, a lot of characters, a lot of
Yeah.
like not arcs, acts.
Yeah,
A lot of
yeah,
acts
yeah,
into
yeah.
20 minutes. But Chainsaw Man is like, it'll just be like one act in 20 minutes, and
Yeah.
it's like one
I think
simple thing.
that seems to be an issue with the source material more so than the anime.
Yeah.
Because like
It's not a bad thing. It's just
Yeah.
like
No, the
before
manga is-
before the episode even gets going, the credits
already-
roll.
yeah.
that's
I was like,
that was
huh?
So I was happy with that when I was reading up to current
Yeah,
because I could
And
just
then when you
smash
have to
through it.
wait-
And now we're up to current and it just ends. I'm like, what do you mean it just ends?
Yeah.
Like we were so close to the
Yeah.
exciting part.
yeah.
But so I think it's a source material issue.
Yeah, it probably would be better if I just waited to the end of the season.
That's
and
what I'm
binged
doing.
it, which is usually what I do.
That's what I'm doing. I'm waiting.
But I was just like,
Oh, we hyped up. Me and Alan hyped it up. To
yeah, you guys
everyone, like-
hyped it up so much. I'm like, I have to watch this, and it's only available in Japanese. And I'm like, well, I'm going to watch this, and yeah, there are
Yeah.
parts of it I really like, but then other parts of it that I really don't like. I have a big problem with a lot of anime tropes, which
Yeah.
fans obviously love. That's why people love anime. But it's you know classic anime tropes, some of which are very creepy, which I don't always appreciate. But yeah,
What have you been watching, Raph? You don't have. You can just say it. It won't be on the thing. We can talk about it.
Anime?
No, anything.
Not really.
Not really.
Blockbuster TV series.
The Blockbuster TV
oh,
show.
I've heard it's terrible.
Some
Okay,
people
Rafael
refer
says
to
it's
it
terrible.
Rafael used to work at Blockbuster.
Okay, yeah.
And
So he
I-
has an
but
inside
he knows
scoop.
it,
He's
yeah.
like, that's not
yeah.
how that
No,
works.
I
They're
idolize-
using a different computer system.
We also idolize the business in this studio as well.
yeah.
I did laugh when Nathan had it on. I'm like, they're all too beautiful to work in a Blockbuster.
Yeah, I think it's also
No
like,
offense, Rafal. No. You know what I mean. I'm like, don't
Yeah.
don't tell me
It's a
like all
very-
these. Don't tell me all
looks-
of these Hollywood celebrities that just so happen to be working in a
problem with
Blockbuster.
it, the problem with it is it looks like a mid 2000s
Yeah.
commercial TV
Yeah.
sitcom
Also,
rather than a streaming.
There's like 8 guys working in the store at the same shift in
Yeah.
a Blockbuster. No.
no way.
Do you know there's no
They've
way
got, like, 2
Blockbuster
or
has that
3
much
at the
RAM.
most, yeah.
There's not enough old men trying to rent the pornos for them to have that roster available.
Yeah. How many people were working at any one time when you were working at Blockbuster? Like maximum 3, right?
yeah,
Yeah. Like, come on.
3, yeah.
The sense of realism pulled me right out.
But yeah, I think like yeah, I don't know. The trailer I was like, oh, that might be fun, but yeah, I don't know. It's not something I'm gonna rush out and
Also, Netflix having it's almost a bit like a kick in the teeth.
yeah. That's yeah. It's just like we
Yeah.
defeated you, and now we're going to piss on your grave.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
We're
a bit
going
dodgy.
to capitalize on your failure.
Demise.
Yeah. All right.
Well, I reckon that's all we've
I'm
got.
hungry.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Thanks for listening, everybody. Please like and share the Tuesday Review Facebook page, the Twitter, and the Instagram. It's at Tuesday Review AU.
Yep.
You can listen to all the other episodes on Spotify, on Anchor, on iTunes Podcast, wherever you listen with your RSS feed.
Yep.
Thanks for listening, everybody. We're back next week. Adios, cousins.